So I'd like to welcome up to the stage Miss Lily Zeleke. She is the Acting Deputy CIO for Information Enterprise in the Office of the CIO at Department of Defense. We also have Mr. Bob Schumm, Vice President for Strategic Programs within Oracle's National Security Group. And we are honored today to be joined, please come on up. We are honored today to be joined by Mr. Terry Halvorsen. Many of you may recall he is the former CIO at the Department of Defense, and he will be moderating for us today. So let's give them all a warm welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all still staying here past 3 o'clock on a beautiful Friday, one of the probably last beautiful Fridays we'll see in Washington for a while. We appreciate it. And we're going to hopefully have a fairly enlightened discussion and a fun discussion about hybrid and multi-cloud. So we've got two great panelists today. Lily Zeleke, who is the acting deputy for information at the DoD CIO, and Bob Schumm, yes, I'm sorry, from Oracle.
Right.
So we're going to ask a couple questions and have a pretty good discussion on this, but we will also at the end take questions from the audience here. So let me first say this. A lot of discussions about what is hybrid cloud, what is multi-cloud, what's the difference between multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, and just connecting four clouds. So I thought we would start with a little discussion about, from the panelists, what does multi-cloud, hybrid cloud mean to you, and what do you see is the value that that will bring forward? So we'll start first with you, Lily.
Thank you, Mr. Halvorsen. Thank you, everyone, for having us here. And, well, multi-cloud, for me, represents the ability to have flexibility in the way we acquire cloud, the services we're going to be able to acquire, covering broader requirements, and the ability to tap into our industry partners in a greater way. So this buys us the ability to do the things that we need to do for the warfighter and really for the workforce from at all classification levels, from the home front to the tactical edge. So to us, multi-cloud means that you're buying the flexibility, the security, the resiliency, that we need in a way that expands our ability to acquire from the various CSPs.
Very good. Bob, what do you think?
So for our perspective, multi-cloud, we have many customers who take advantage of the different offerings that are available. We have an interconnect commercially with Microsoft Azure. They have applications they want to run in one cloud that use an Oracle backend. And so we have many customers who want to take advantage of the best of all of the cloud providers and to be able to pick and choose between them which services best meet their needs.
Let me follow up a little bit of that with you, just 1 second. So would that imply that some of the cloud providers have different strengths?
They do. So I think each one has certain levels of maturity of the products and their offerings. And some have different security, some have different product offerings they're able to offer. And so for a customer to be able to pick and choose based on your requirements, your workload, your security requirements, you need to think about how do I get the best of breed of what's available between across the clouds.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you on that with another question. But one of the things that I think we have to think about with cloud is how do you move to the cloud? And I think we be honest, DoD moving to the cloud has some interesting problems. A, scale, and B, how much legacy it has. That's going to require some modernization efforts. So Lily, tell us about how you're looking at modernization to help you move to the cloud.
Well, I think you hit the challenge that we have with respect to moving to multi-cloud or any cloud for that matter, is our ability to take what we have today, the capabilities that we need today, and translate them into the cloud is going to require not just technology changes. I think I keep saying technology is probably the easier part, not easy, but the easier part. But we have processes that we need to navigate. We have funding and resourcing challenges that we need to navigate. We have skill set challenges we need to navigate. So when we talk about modernization, I think a lot of times people just think technology. And, if we can just refactor, old systems, or if we can just acquire new systems. But all of these factors play into that decision. But also, honestly, the mission requirement and the adversary and their ability to navigate and penetrate our security perimeters. Various things come into play in a way that it's not just technology, but all of these things that I listed that is going to require, not just within DoD, but all of our industry partners and academia, et cetera, is going to have to band together to be able to address modernization.
So following up one of the points you made there about the mission environment. So we've seen a lot more, I think, from DoD emphasis now on how is multi-hybrid cloud really going to support the warfighter. So how are you looking at that, and what do you think was the changes that you'll need to consider as you look more at the warfighter mission set?
At the warfighter mission set, so I think one of the biggest one that I would say is the tactical edge, which if we want to have a seamless communication and operation and sort of executing what we need, this war that we're fighting, over information technology these days, is going to require us to be able to address that, for example. We have some aging systems that we're going to have to address. They're capable, they do the job, but are they efficient? Are we going to be able to continue using them to interoperate with the newer threat and technologies that we're facing? I'm sure we're finding out that that's going to be a challenge. So we're going to have to your earlier point of the hybrid model we talked about, we're going to have to maintain certain systems. We're going to have to continue to innovate. We're going to have to continue to build new systems. And the cloud, in my view, is part of that. And really, for us to be able to continue to transition to the cloud, we have to continue to also sort of live out, maintain, get rid of this technical debt we always talk about in some way, make a dent in that eventually to get us to fully cloud native kind of operation.
History probably has a challenge here too, in that we've done a lot of work, what I'll say, supporting mainstream cloud environments. This is going to require industry to do some things differently. How are you looking at what you will have to do differently, and what might the whole industry, if we're really truly going to get a hybrid cloud environment available to the warfighter at the edge?
So there's been discussions already about how to do multi-cloud across the national security space on existing cloud contracts. And we're working with other CSPs to try and make it a seamless interface for our customers. Customers want to be able to, take their data, own their data, move their data, and they don't need to have an artificial obstacle put in by one of the CSPs. And so we're very much working towards trying to have a playing field where a customer can easily move between them, get the benefit of competition and price, and have offerings that they get to choose from.
Do you think this is going to require some new technology to make sure that the edge can, if not stay connected, when it is disconnected, stay as current as possible with its data, so that when it reconnects, there's not a complete dead time?
So, for example, our edge computing device, the Oracle Roving Edge, it's designed to be disconnected and then to sync back up when it comes connected. It's designed to be a mesh in and of itself. So if you have a hub and spoke and you lose the hub, that it can continue to work forward. And I think that the technology, again, I don't think it's the hard part. I think everybody understands the challenges that are out there. And I see from the various CSPs offerings from smaller scale to large scale to a trailer size opportunity. So there's different form factors to fit whatever the mission need would be.
You talked about value. DOD's got this technical debt and value. What are you looking for from industry to be able to demonstrate that you really are going to get value from this hybrid cloud solution? What are some of the factors industry should be considering that says, if you do this, yes, we're more convinced that in this hybrid environment, we'll get the value we want?
I think there are different factors, in my view, that go into that. And from a DoD standpoint, first of all, are you going to be able to meet the mission capability requirement? Second, are you going to be able to do it at cost that is palatable to the department? As you know, we're resource limited. I know it sounds like the department has a lot of dollars, but it's also a big organization with extremely vast mission and very complicated systems. And also really the ability to work together, the industry sort of working together to come up with solutions that one may not be able to offer, that they may collectively may be able to offer. In my view, a cloud contract like a JWCC could bring that kind of synergy to the future of where we're trying to go with innovation and modernization and the ability to sort of quickly get ourselves out of technical debt.
As you think about the non-technology problems, are people one of those?
Oh, absolutely. I always tell this to people as I talk to some of my colleagues. We always say, technology is complex, but people are complicated. We are complicated. Our processes are complicated. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is. But also, in order for us to make change, we have to evolve. The way we do business, the way we communicate, the way we sort of make decisions on resourcing, et cetera. So I would say yes, people. But the other piece of it is we, the people, are the ones that are moving the ball forward. So we need to have the right skill set. We need to have the right support to be able to do that. And I think that is a lot of what our focus within the department right now is also, not just in modernization, is the workforce piece, enhancing that and the way we sort of upskill. And I think earlier you and I were chatting about, looking within also to get some of the smart people to work on these kinds of technology and modernization, because we have a vast pool of knowledge within the department, but also getting that industry knowledge base into to augment our need from a people, process, knowledge base, workforce standpoint.
Thank you. A little bit different take on that same question. From an industry standpoint, as you're looking to talk to DOD, what do you think are some of the non-technical issues that DOD maybe needs to look at a little differently?
So one of the promises of cloud is the speed of innovation, and that the technology and services can change rapidly. And I think from an acquisition model, the model is still set up to buy hardware, buy certain software products, and that's your tool set. That's all you have to put together, as opposed to an ever-changing landscape. And so I'm investing a certain amount of money, and a new service came along, which is far better than one that I was consuming before. I want to be able to change to that very easily. And so that's where I think that the acquisition side needs to change a bit. And I think the other piece that I think the government needs to look at is it's hard. They're not that different at a command line level. When you get into the various CSPs and you have a developer, there's a lot of commonality. And I think looking at it from that aspect, from a people process and the training thing, that there is a lot of commonality from some of the core services. And so how can they, rather than think about starting over with training, look to be a slight delta to what they already have?
We take a little different direction throughout this statement. Single cloud's a lot easier to secure than hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud's not going to be very secure.
I would say that the counter to that is a single cloud. You know exactly what to go attack and where it is, as opposed to not really understanding, providing the adversary with more things to worry about and not really letting them understand where the attack or defense might be coming from.
What do you think? How do you secure the hybrid cloud? Is it going to give DoD more security, give it more resiliency?
I believe so. And as you all are, aware, with the zero trust architecture that we're looking at, I really believe whether you're multi or a single cloud, it's going to be a lot more resilient, a lot more focused on, securing the data. So I think that sort of takes single, multi out of the question, although clearly as you multiply and have more to secure, it may be challenging. However, the opposite, and you have diversity, so you're not attacking one cloud or single cloud. So I think the zero trust piece is going to change the game on that.
One of the areas that has come across from DoD as maybe a concern with multi-hybrid cloud is, you could argue it's very difficult now just to take all of the DoD data and operate it successfully with all the integration, the legacy equipment in a single cloud. Mm-hmm. How is hybrid cloud going to address that? And do you think in the end it makes it easier to address those issues, or is it going to add more complexity?
So I think for Oracle, we've always thought about, you secure the data. People don't want to steal your network diagram. They want your data, right? So our history is rooted in protecting the data. And when you look at what we think multi-cloud brings to the department, is that on an individual program case or an individual system case, it doesn't really increase the risk, and it provides a lot of benefits, right? Mm-hmm. And people have to it is a case-by-case basis about what's the best fit, and look at the use case and the mission, and figuring out on this piece, does cloud benefit or not? Is multiple cloud benefit or not? Or is it a system that is say generic back office that it doesn't really matter? And so there's an analysis that has to be done.
I think that's a good point. Let me ask you about, there need probably be some analysis on what needs to move to the cloud, what might not need the cloud. How is DoD looking at that?
So as he was speaking, I was thinking of, data analytics. Data is going to be the core of our mission set and asset going forward. Data-driven decision means really, to Rob's point, that we need to have analytics and automation capabilities that enable us to do those things. And software is where that comes into play, modern software practices. And I know that you all are aware of the DoD software modernization, and which we're working the implementation plan currently. Actually, it's going through coordination, so hopefully pretty soon we'd be expecting the implementation. But that's where a lot of our efforts are going to be going into, is really focusing on the data and making sense of the data, and delivering the proper information, at speed and secure and at scale. So I think automation, data analytics, and CDAO, as you know, is the new organization under Dr. Martell, the deputy instituted very recently. All of these are the efforts that are ongoing because it is that critical to the entire effort of cloud and digital modernization.
Data is king. That is what we're all talking about. How do you get data to enable better decision making? And great emphasis now on how do you get that data to the commanders for
right.
decision-making. We've talked about a lot of DoD data sets in legacy environments. So I'll just put out the conversation. So all the data should go to the cloud.
I don't know that I would agree with that, right? I think that the cloud has its use, right, for developing and testing and rapid agile development. It's a perfect use case. There are those instances that something's going to be I'll say a 24/7 honking workload that you may want to keep on premise because it would cost too much to run in a cloud. And so each has its advantages. So I think that's to your hybrid point. There are things that are going to remain on premise because they are much more cost effective and secure in that manner. But in developing that system and maintaining that system, I think cloud plays into how you get there.
Everything go to the cloud?
No, I couldn't agree more with Bob. Really, I don't have much to add to that because honestly, to even kid ourselves that we will move everything to the cloud is really, it's not going to happen and not anytime soon. So really to the point of the hybrid cloud is imperative to ensure that we maintain continuity as we innovate and modernize.
DoD has its own culture. You might argue that it's not a culture, and you have kind of said that it maybe doesn't accept change as well as other places. It's a hard culture to change. What is DoD going to need to do to help accelerate this type of change to this environment? How do you train this change?
Honestly, I think just the nature of how the world is evolving, how the threat is evolving, even things like the pandemic, COVID, there's forcing functions that are forcing us to change. And I don't want to call it force in that way, but by nature of how the world and our environment and the threat is evolving, I think it is really sort of giving us a little nudge to change. And I really honestly see that change and just that air within the department now and the way we operate. And it is a big organization. So to change such a big organization like that, just like that, is not going to happen. However, like I said, we've shown resilience in the midst of COVID, where this big department that everyone thinks, we always operate in secret and everything, but we made it work. No planes have fallen off the sky. No missions have been dropped. In fact, we've faced more adversity in this time than at any other time. And yet, here we are. So I really believe change will come. It maybe seems slow in some aspects, but I really believe change will come and is really happening.
I think you had a good point. I think COVID did set an environment. I mean, it had to go to a distributed environment much faster than the plans were on the books to do that.
That's right.
So that has put maybe a better environment to say change can happen.
Absolutely.
Now, industry, of course, we have never any problems with change. We're always ready to change, ready to move forward to drop of a hat. Is industry, what do they have to look at to change?
So I think you have to look at the workforce itself is changing, right? We have people come out of college who have been taught a different way. It's not that you remember the information. It's you know how to go find the information and how to apply the information, right? So the workforce is changing over time, and it's driving change in companies that like ours, where you have the innovation and they don't. People will question, why do we do something this way when there's a faster or better way to do it? And I think that also resonates into the department, where its workforce is going to demand the change and the evolution on a faster scale.
Okay, you guys have done great so far. That was the easy part. So now we got to get everybody their money's worth and let them ask us questions.
Terrific discussion so far. Thank you to all of you. And I encourage our in-person audience, let me know if you have a question. We'd love to get to you. But we did have a great question come in on our Zoom webinar, and I think this is mostly for Ms. Zeleke. But someone had said, connected IT systems and government cloud enable other tools with broader mission benefits. Could you comment on efforts to better integrate test systems into the branch's digital infrastructure, which could provide deeper insights into equipment performance and possibly failure analysis, and allowing engineers remotely to identify and troubleshoot problems before they impact readiness? Just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
That's definitely a mouthful.
It is.
And a long question, but I think what that's getting at is whether it's zero trust or the ability to sort of make our networks efficient, we're realizing that we really have to have more monitoring, real-time monitoring, sort of visibility at all times. In the way we operate and we look at our networks. So I think it gets to that point that the department recognizes that. That is actually one of the subjects that is widely discussed and even being considered in sort of the resourcing areas. So absolutely, it is an imperative that we have eyes on our networks at all times, and monitoring is a critical piece of it. And to be able to sort of communicate that information, whether it's test or any other capability.
Lee, I would add to that, I think some of the policies that I know you were involved in, that John Sherman has signed up recently about allowing the cyber ranges to be used
right.
by
That's
industry.
Right. That's a great
in some cases,
example.
it actually tests the equipment early, lets everybody see it, shares the data. And I think from talking with you and John, they'll be expanded on
Absolutely.
that too.
Absolutely.
Sure. And then just to kind of tie back to our earlier keynote to kick us off today, we had heard from Red Hat CTO Chris Wright. He talked about the challenge of creating operationally resilient systems and what Red Hat's doing. And I just wanted to give that question to both of our panelists here. As you look at creating an operationally resilient system on hybrid or multi-cloud infrastructure, what are some of the key things that stick out in your mind that we need to be thinking about, whether we're in government or in the industry side?
I'll take that just because it is, well, I'll start. Just because it's part of our software modernization implementation plan is really enhancing the way we do software development, modern software development, DevSecOps. I think everybody hears that. But the ability to sort of make that process, the development, the security, and the operation piece integrated and sort of making it seamless. We're not there, but I think we've made huge strides in that area that I really believe that is the next level that's going to propel us to really make that sort of a norm versus, pockets as we have it right now.
So we've seen customers, we have a VMware service in the cloud that lets customers provision a virtual data center in our cloud. And so they get a COOP site for just provisioning the cloud connected to it. It's very simple for them to do. And so we've seen a number of commercial customers get to high resiliency that way and provide a DR site where they may not have had it before. And so that's been very successful for us.
Sure. And that's all the questions from me. So Mr. Halvorsen, I'll turn it back to you for your final thoughts from yourself and your panelists.
Any questions from the room before we close this out? Make sure everybody gets an opportunity to get their dollar out of this.
I have a question, Chris Wright, Red Hat. To Bob's point, I've seen great use of sort of high side, low side, so do work in the cloud, maybe targeted data export so you can ensure that it's securely exported to the cloud. I can also imagine where, from a DoD point of view, the actual edge is a really important space, and but then it's within your control. In the public cloud side, where do you see confidential computing enabling a new form of security that sort of takes zero trust and takes it a step further as being a credible way to provide public cloud access, even in a high side environment or something like that? I don't know if you're giving that much thought, but I'm curious where your head is there.
Honestly speaking, that is one of the areas we give much thought, but we're still at the early stages of trying to figure out the, sovereign tactical edge piece in a way that makes sense. So I think it will be premature for me to sort of comment on moving to the public domain and sort of going at that from a service aspect. But ultimately, I think we will get there. We just have to figure out, and a lot of it is probably not technical. So we just have to figure out how to get there.
I would add, having just come from the recent warfighter talks, it is a key component with all of the co-coms.
Yeah.
How are they going to take, and they've knocked it down a level to, they want to take commercial and public sensor data and pull that in real time for mission. And that is going to be a challenge. Confidential compute, though, probably is part of the answer to that equation.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just going to thank the panelists. I applaud DoD's efforts to move to a hybrid cloud. I think that makes sense, multi-cloud. Industry has done, I think, well to step up and have lots more discussions about how industry works together, reduces some of the cost, and produces a better mission environment. So I think that's all goodness. I think we're making some great strides to doing that. I'll ask either panelists anything you want to add before we close out.
No, just thank everybody for their time and attention today.
Thank you very much for being here on a Friday afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much to our panelists. We really appreciate having perspective from Department of Defense here. And I think one of the key messages from today's symposium is just the need to all work together as we start to advance in these cloud environments. So hopefully that's a great takeaway for everyone here today, as well as our virtual audience. And I do want to remind folks here, we do have a reception. It just started at the other end of the hallway. So please stick around and join us if you can. And again, I just want to acknowledge our industry partners, Dell Technologies, Intel, Oracle, and Red Hat. And please stay tuned for more great events from HSDF, including our regular series of roundtable discussions, as well as our larger symposiums. And coming up next, we are hosting our Artificial Intelligence Symposium on October 28th, hopefully with participation from DoD as well as DHS. So we hope to see you there. And just thank you again. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.